Who doesn't love UFC, am I right? And especially the GOAT, Anderson Silva. So that guy back there, I'm not just calling him the GOAT because he's Brazilian as well, but he was definitely a different type of fighter. Nevertheless, today I was thinking Anderson had such a nice fighting style, and he always talked a lot about Bruce Lee. So why don't we actually put them together in a nice poster design? So designer, lock in, because we about to cook something special, and I'm actually going to show you guys how I use AI to create these athlete photos. So let's go. Okay, so first of all, here we are. We're on free pick right now, and I'm just here just looking at, how I'm going to go throughout this design. Every design has a style, has a way, has a meaning to it, and I'm just checking out how am I going to go. So I want to make something different, because it's Anderson Silva and because it's Bruce Lee. I want to make something different than what I've made before. So I'm trying to maybe think of something around like putting them inside of a studio, as if they were in a studio. Maybe there's a light behind them, some play with the light in some type of way. So here we have a bunch of references, right? And I actually found a good reference right now. So it sort of has a light in the back. There's these rays that are coming from the back light, and we're going to use this as our reference. So here we have Bruce Lee and Anderson Silva. I will show you guys a bit. I actually created these images of them two with AI. So I use free pick to create the images with both of them. I wrote out a prompt inside of ChatGPT based on the idea I had in mind of both of them, and the image on free pick came out great. So pretty much here I'm using solid colors, and I created the colors with the solid color tool. I put in the created a mask object, and I'm just coloring in with some brushes, and I'm using some smoke brushes. So as I don't want it to be smoke, I actually want it to look like it's a light. I'm using Gaussian blur and also radio blur to give that zoom effect, right? So I'm using the radio blur, and each color that I used, I have about 3 colors, and here we have them. So I'm actually going back, just taking a look, see if I can grab any ideas from it. But now what I have to do is actually get the colors to look a bit like his shorts. So I'm getting the yellows to look like his shorts, and here we have some basic ideas for you guys and basic knowledge and principles, right? So the background, the color is coming from the background, right? The background is going to have a really strong yellow light, so they have to be sort of in a silhouette type of look. Their front part of their face and their body, it's not going to be as lit as the sides because there is no front light. So here we pretty much have both of them, right? And I also want to share with you guys what I did to upscale them. So they came from free pick, but I used this to upscale them. And down below, you guys can check in the link. I have a link where you guys are gonna get free tokens. As you click the link, sign in, you're gonna get free tokens from my link so you can upscale your images. And the upscale, as you saw, is just amazing. So back here again, I'm just creating some lights using the exposure. So I brought down the exposure, and with the mask, I'm bringing back some of the lights as if the light was coming from the background. Because every time we create a design, we always have to think about how realistic would it be, in real life, how would it be, how would it look? So in real life, if you have light behind you and you don't really have light in front of you, you're gonna be dark, but your sides, they're gonna be sort of lightened up because the light is sort of wraps around you, right? So that's the main idea here. Because we have our main light is behind them, the light is gonna come from the back. Another thing I would like to say is these images also already came with light on them. So as we can see here, the images, they have light on top of them, right? So because I want the light coming from the back, I'm gonna search up for this sort of perspective grid so I can work on top of that. This is the first time I work with this perspective grid because I've seen a lot of people using this and I've never used it before. And because I want to have these light rays coming from the back, I can't just make these rays out of my head. So I need this perspective grid. And the perspective grid, that is a hard word to say, man. It is gonna help me with everything. So it's gonna help me in my direction of how the shadows should be, how the light rays should come. So everything like that is just great, man. So here I'm creating the shadows. I created sort of 2 shadows, and in Photoshop, I'm just gonna tell you guys that everything is test. You have to test out everything. Sometimes I make shadows with the exposure, but in this case, I'm making the shadows actually with a black brush. So you have to just test everything out, see how it looks. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So most of the times I do create shadows with black brushes. And as you can see, I'm just creating the shadows from their feet and sort of imagining how would this look like. You know, if I was in front of them in this studio, how would this look like? How would the shadows look like? How would the lighting look like? The rim lighting around them, how would it look like? So that's what we have to think, right? Because this is sort of a realistic type of design. It's not a collage or something like that where, you know, or a retro design or vintage design where it's actually supposed to look like a design, you know, look like cutout images and things like that. Then we actually have to think, you know, on how would this realistically look like. So as you can see here, everything I do pretty much, I create solid colors. So I create solid colors, I put in these masks inside of them, and it gives me a whole control. You know, I can go back and change things up. So here I'm just creating sort of these lights that are coming in from the back, right? And because these lights are coming in from the back, they're sort of gonna come in from behind them. It's not gonna we have to really think about how the light would seep in, right? So here I'm sort of thinking on how it's gonna seep in. As you can see, I'm just doing a bunch of tests and testing it out. So here I'm remaking the grid because I'm gonna make in these really thin lines coming in. And as you can see, some lights wouldn't come in from the front of him, things like that I'm just really thinking about on, like, if this was actually real, where would these light rays come in? Where would they hit? Where would they seep through? And things like that. So as you can see, also I'm creating here a sort of white light coming from the top because they do have some white highlights on top of them. So there is a light on top of them, correct? And just working through, guys, just working through. So as you can see here, I'm just creating these reflections and sort of bringing back, right? Because we have to see their face, even though it's a silhouette. And I was actually thinking that even though it's a silhouette, I have to see their face. So I'm using the exposure, I'm bringing it back. And as you can see, sometimes I'll go inside of the exposure layer and tweak it a bit and see how it looks. But we're just bringing back and also putting some feather ends, using brightness tool and things like that. Everything is just testing it out. And I'm bringing back the light, some light from the sides, because I'm gonna try to put some in some light from the sides as well, and also some light coming in from the back. So I'm just testing it out, seeing how it looks, using some orange light with the hue and saturation tool. That is actually something that I learned from Benny Productions. He actually uses the hue and saturation tool, which is a nice, and it's a good solution. I used to use a solid color tool. I would put it on top of the subject, and I would just, you know, put it in as screen or something like that. But Benny actually uses the hue and saturation tool, which is a really nice idea, and it works really well. So here, as you can see, I'm just testing out, also putting in some feather inside of the exposure. And as you guys can see, everything is being used with masks. This is like the #1 tip I give for you as a designer, is to use masks and everything, because a mask, it just it gives you, you know, the whole control for you to go back, erase, bring back, and everything like that. So we're using masks. And as you guys can see, I'm just testing everything out. Color balance is really great for you just to bring and make everything look like it's together. Also, color balance, I put some gradient over them as well. And as you guys can see how the modes are, right? So light is pretty much, I use screen or linear dodge add, and here I have a rim light in the back, right? So I'm gonna put in that really thin rim light around them. And as you guys can see, I really need to think on how the rim light would look. So because we are not 2D, we're 3D dimensional, that means that our edges, they're rounded, right? So we have to think about how the rim light would actually look. If we leave the rim light around them 100%, they're gonna look flat. They're gonna look like they're 2D. They're not gonna look 3D. It's not gonna look realistic. So you guys really need to think on that. And here I'm just putting in some more like haze, you know, some subtle colors. And as you guys can see, now I'm putting in this effect where the light is sort of like seeping through the edges. This is a really good effect, and a lot of designers use this, and it looks really well. It looks way better because that's how it actually would be. When the light is behind you, it's gonna sort of come in through these, you know, through your clothes or through some type of fold or things like that, right? So if the light was behind me, it would sort of come in a bit right here, and that's what we're doing here. We're giving that effect to it. So we're bringing in these highlights on the folds and really skinny and thin highlights on the edges, as you guys can see. And this just makes your image looks a whole lot better. A good tip for you guys is to really think about the details. Details is everything. A lot of designers, they're too lazy or they don't think about the details. So here, this is something that's very detailed, right? I'm remaking the hairs. That's really detailed. A lot of designers wouldn't do that, and it makes a whole difference. A lot of times you can't really see it, but most of the times your client will be able to see it. He will notice it, you know, even if the poster is going to be viewed, maybe it's going to be a printed poster, it's going to be big. So details really matter. Even in your flyer designs, details matter. It makes you the top one designer, you know, it makes you stand out from the rest of the designers. So as you guys can see, I play a lot inside of the layer styles. The layer styles, you can play a lot in the blend if. So you can really play with that and see how it looks. And it makes everything, it makes the shadows, the highlights look even, you know, more realistic. So as you guys can see, I'm just playing around and taking a look and just thinking on what else can I do, what else can I add, and things like that. So as you guys can see how everything is just coming out, right? These light rays, it's like a, you know, it's like a cherry on top, let's say, right? So it's really a cherry on top of the whole design. The light rays, it just makes it look unique. It makes it look different. And as you guys can see, I'm just fixing, you know, the inner glows, which I use a lot also. I bring back the inner glows, I put a mask on it, and I just gently bring it back. So I'm bringing it back and really thinking about, right, how would this inner glow look like? So it is a subtle inner glow, as you could see, but the detail makes a difference. So I'm just putting in some yellow lights on the top to sort of give that haze effect and give that effect like the light is really seeping in and it really glows inside of them, you know, in the inner part. So things like this really makes a difference on your whole design, and it just looks great. So you really need to think about these details. Details are like it's the top one thing that makes you stand out as a designer, makes you different from the rest. So now we have to think on typography, right? I want to add something to this design, but nothing too crazy. I want to add something subtle. So here I'm just looking at some ideas, looking on what I can do, if I can add their logo or not, and just how can I play with it. So I'm really trying to give this design a whole really type of elegant look to it. So I don't want to make nothing too crazy. So here we have two legends collide, and because Bruce Lee is Chinese, so I put it in Chinese, written in Chinese, because I think it makes sense. And Chinese letters are just cool, man. They're sick. Just by looking at them, they're cool. They look different, and it's just gonna give a cool look to the design. So put it in Chinese, put it in English as well, using this larger font, right? Which is, I'm pretty sure this font is Vanguard font. You guys can find it. And now I'm just looking for some things that I can add. Another things I want to tell you guys is this design is a fan-made design. I am not selling this design, nothing like that. If it was for a client and I actually sold it for a client, I would not be using Pinterest, because Pinterest is other designers' work. So these symbols that I'm actually using are made from other designers, and you can't grab something from another designer and sell it, right? So because this is just sort of a fan art and an art for me to actually study and practice, I'm using these symbols from Pinterest. So another thing I really like, and I started doing a lot, is using the athlete's signature. I don't know why, I just think it looks nice, it looks unique. It's like as if it was a baseball card, I don't know, and they just or even a poster, and they just signed on top of it, right? So I put in the design, and I'm just looking for some type of small brush splatter. As I told you guys, always think on details. So this small black brush splatter is a detail that as if the person was signing it, and some ink came out from the pen. So that's like a little detail that makes a difference. So here I'm just as you guys know, design is always testing things out. So I'm seeing on what can I do to this text. I don't want it to take up too much space. So as you guys can see, I made it smaller. I'm putting it on the top and just testing it out, seeing what I can do, how I can make it look subtle, because I don't want it to grab too much attention, because the main subjects are the fighters. And here we are on free pick once again, just looking for some textures. I want to put some textures on the top, but really subtle textures, nothing too crazy, because this is a more realistic type of design. So nothing too crazy on the top. And now guys, here we're pretty much at the end, right? So at the end, I'm just gonna add some small details. Once again, bro, details is the game changer of your designs. So I'm adding in some small specks, right? As if there were some specks in the air or something like that. So it just looks really nice. It's really small, and it just makes it look different, man. So here I'm just bugging out, going crazy on, first of all, I was looking for Anderson Silva's signature for hours, for not hours, but for minutes, and I couldn't find it. He has a bunch of different signatures. So now here you're just gonna see me pretty much bugging out, seeing where am I gonna position this. I have information up on the top left with the text. So where am I going to put this signature? Am I going to put it on the opposite, right, which is the bottom right? So that's what I'm doing right now. And again, just putting in some little small splatters, things like that, and just seeing how am I going to position everything, how is it going to make sense. And this is something every designer does. Every designer goes crazy on this, right? So the next thing that I actually do is I group everything, I rasterize it. So I'm going to rasterize it, and I'm going to put in camera raw. So camera raw is the last cherry on top, is where you're going to just test things out, test out colors, shadows, sharpening, and this is how it looks with the camera raw. It just looks absolutely different, and this is a cherry on top.
Whoa, whoa. Here I come.
Oh.
Here I come.
Oh. And guys, here we are to an end. Let me take these glasses off so I don't look nerdy. Here we are to an end. Guys, this came out great. Actually, every time we design something, we always think like, how is it gonna look like, and is it gonna come out good or not? So this was a really different type of design. I've never done a design like this. I really don't do silhouette designs, and I know that I actually have a lot of things to improve, because silhouette designs, you really need to control the lights. So I will be doing some light studies so I can actually improve that. You know, I see that a lot with Augusto on Instagram, where he does these light studies. So this was our final design, as you guys can see, and I'm just going to show you guys the cherry on top, which is the camera raw filter, how it looks before and how it looks after. So camera raw filter is really nice. It just makes it look better. It makes it look stronger. You get to control your colors, your sharpening, and things like that. So guys, that was it. I want to let you guys just comment down below, tell me what you guys thought, you know, of the design. How did the process go out? Anything you learned or anything like that. As you guys can see, I use a lot of solid colors and I use a lot of masks. So masks is always good to use, right? And another thing, guys, these images of Bruce Lee and Anderson Silva were created with AI. So if you guys want to learn how to create these images and how to actually create images of yourself or of athletes or of your clients using bad images, so you take bad images and you actually convert them, and from them you actually make a clone of yourself and create really good images, I'll leave the link down below. I will be having a live masterclass where in a couple of hours I'm going to teach you how I take horrible images that really mess up your design or mess up your image and convert them into realistic quality images, high quality images. I also teach you how to upscale them in this live masterclass. So I will be having this live masterclass. It is only 100 spots, and once it's over, it's over. It will not be recorded. So guys, link is down below, and thank you once again. Let me know in the comments down below. Leave your thumbs up, subscribe, and definitely send this over to a friend. And it's just gonna, YouTube is just gonna understand that this video is interesting, right? So help a brother out. HBO special, help a brother out. Guys, I'll see you on the next one. See you on the next video. Peace.